Welcome back. In this unit, you will learn simple and compound meters. You'll also begin to sight read compositions, which I'll speak more about at the end of the video. In Unit 2, you learn to describe meter in terms of beats per measure. Duple meter has 2 beats per measure, triple has 3, and quadruple has 4. Duple, triple, and quadruple meters describe how a measure is broken down in beats. However, the terms in this unit, simple and compound, they describe how a beat is broken down. Simply put, beats are typically subdivided into 2s or 3s. When most of the beats are subdivided into 2 equal parts, the piece is in simple meter. And when most of the beats are subdivided into 3 equal parts, the piece is in compound meter. This seemingly small distinction makes a huge difference in feel. For me, music in simple meter feels angular and music in compound meter feels round. Allow me to describe the difference through these examples. The first is of simple quadruple meter. You are already used to this meter, so it should seem fairly normal to you. However, take a moment to understand the logic of the beaming. Notice that 2/8 notes are beamed in simple meter. This suggests that each unit is a beat. Therefore, each beat is a quarter note, subdivided into 2/8. Our next example is in compound quadruple meter. Notice that 3/8 notes are beamed in compound meter. This suggests that each unit is a beat, and each beat is a dotted quarter note that's subdivided into 3/8. Since compound meter is just now being introduced in this series, I'd like to reiterate a crucial point. The beat in compound meter is usually represented as a dotted quarter note. Listen to the example of simple meter and focus on the feel of the quarter note beat with the 2 equal subdivisions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now listen to this example of compound meter and focus on the feel of the dotted quarter note beat with 3 equal subdivisions. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Both simple and compound can apply to duple, triple, and quadruple meters. As a result, there are 6 types of standard meter in Western music. I'll go through them one by one. In simple duple meter, most beats divide into 1/8 notes. There are 2 beats per measure, and each beat is a quarter note. I'll repeat the measure in all these examples in hopes of better imparting the feel. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. In simple triple meter, most beats divide into 1/8 notes. There are 3 beats per measure, and each beat's a quarter note. Again, I'll demonstrate. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. In simple quadruple meter, most beats divide into 1/8 notes. There are 4 beats per measure, and each beat's a quarter note, like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. In compound duple meter, most beats divide into 3/8 notes. There are 2 beats per measure, and each beat is a dotted quarter note, like this. 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. Compound meters can be counted in a variety of ways. I recommend using the second option because it does a better job of emphasizing the duple feel. In compound triple meter, most beats divide into 3/8 notes. There are 3 beats per measure, and each beat is equivalent to a dotted quarter note. It sounds like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. In compound quadruple meter, most beats divide into 3/8 notes. There are 4 beats per measure, and each beat is the equivalent to a dotted quarter note. So here it is. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3, 4. The hemiola is an exciting device in which rhythmic accents switch from 2 beats subdivided into 3 parts to 3 beats subdivided into 2 parts, or vice versa. I suggest you emphasize this change in accent whenever you encounter a hemiola. It creates excitement and energy. Hemiolas happen in compound meter and in simple meter. If the piece is in compound meter, I suggest you count the hemiola like this. 1 and a, 2 and a, 1 and a, 2 and a. But if the piece is in simple meter, I suggest you count the hemiola like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. To determine meter, you can employ the following shortcut. Look at the top number of the time signature. So, for example, simple duple has a 2, simple triple has a 3, simple quadruple has a 4, compound duple has a 6, compound triple has a 9, and compound quadruple has a 12. So what does the bottom number of the time signature suggest? As you learned in Unit 2, the bottom number in simple meter corresponds to the type of note that becomes a beat. Therefore, if the bottom number is a 4, then each beat is represented by a quarter note. It's pretty simple. In compound meter, the bottom number of the time signature corresponds to the type of note that becomes a 1/3 subdivision of the beat, not the entire beat. If compound meter is notated such that the dotted quarter note is the beat, then the 8th note is that 1/3 subdivision. Hence, the number 8 takes the bottom number of the time signature. As usual, we'll end with a sight reading tip. Sight reading empowers musicians to engage with music they've never heard before. Many musicians derive oodles of joy from bringing music notation to life for the first hearing. It's like unwrapping a present. And further, as with presents, we may really love what's inside or not. Sight reading allows us to intimately engage with a piece and decide whether or not we want to spend hours of our lives making it performance ready. When I started sight reading for the purpose of scouting new performance repertoire, I finally stopped confusing the act of sight reading with the act of performing. When I sight read, my goal is to get a sense of the shape, character, and difficulties of a piece. And sometimes mistakes don't get in the way of achieving that goal, which is why they can be sort of overlooked. However, when I prepare for a performance, my goal is to master the shape, character, and difficulties of a piece. So in this case, mistakes are crucial to goal attainment, and mistakes are obstacles that, when overcome, clear the path to greater mastery. I want you to experience the difference between a sight reading attitude and a performance preparation attitude. This was one of my motivations for commissioning composers, to write dozens of original duet compositions for this series. You don't have to perfect these compositions. All you have to do is sight read them. If you don't like the piece, feel free to continue through the series without mastering it. However, if you do like one or more of these compositions, I encourage you to shift from a sight reading attitude to a performance preparation attitude when the time is right, so that you can add them to your repertoire. The original compositions are available as a collection called The Obelisks. Have fun with these new compositions and new meters, and I'll see you in Unit 10. Bye-bye.